as mentioned earlier. And so a distinguished engineer is the most senior role within an organization. And I get a chance to do some really cool and neat things for Symantec. One of those is being a keynote speaker at various conferences. In fact, I'm looking at speaking at a conference here in the next week or so with 400 to 600 in attendance. The other is being a Senate expert witness, so giving testimony in front of the Senate. That would be state Senate. And then my last passion is understanding the tools and technologies and presenting those tools in a way to help organizations mitigate the risk of the adversary or the hacker, if you will, or cyber thieves breaking into their infrastructure to steal the information, to exfiltrate it. I'm so passionate about cybersecurity, I actually converted my formal dining room into a data center, and you have to use your finger tip just to get in. So a little bit about me. I spent a little time at Chattahoochee Technical College, all of 3 months to obtain my first certification, which was the Microsoft Certified Engineering Certification. And my career started as an entry-level role with an organization, and then from there I moved on to another organization, and I got more into the networking aspects of IT, and then eventually falling into security, and then with sales with Symantec. So I've been in the field for going on 20 years now. Seems like it was just yesterday, and I have a saying that anytime I go on I want to go to vacation. On vacation, I go to work because it is that much fun that I am enjoying working as a cybersecurity professional, protecting our information. So again, touching on Symantec, we are the leader, as she mentioned earlier. I've been around since 1982, and anytime you go to Best Buy or Walmart or Target and you pick up a little yellow and black box, again, that is our consumer company. So one of our core technologies is the antivirus, which I'll talk about a little later, but there are other technologies and capabilities that organizations are looking at to protect the information from getting into the wrong hands. So again, just wanted to give you a little bit of backdrop on myself, Symantec as a whole. So before we start, let's talk about what is cyber security. And it was interesting. I was talking to a group of high schoolers not too long ago, students, and I asked them, I said, well, when I say cybersecurity, what is the first thing that comes to mind? And someone actually thought of cybersecurity as a security guard that sits in the front, and basically he's on the internet, right? So I thought it was important to at least break down what is cybersecurity, the profession in general. So first of all, let's start with information, right? So from your banking information, if you're a student, your parents' banking information, or your social security number or credit card number, that's information itself. And so the bad guys are looking to steal that information and repurpose and resell that information for financial gain. So cybersecurity is basically a professional that protects information, right, from threats. And the threat would be a virus. That's malicious activity that could harm your machine. But the threat can also be a person that's looking to infiltrate your system and steal that information, and again, use it for financial gain itself. So just to give you a little backdrop on cybersecurity, it's also referred to as information technology security or security engineer. So there are a number of names and nomenclatures, but really to set the baseline, cybersecurity is all about protecting your information. So with that, let's look at the global shortage of cybersecurity professionals. Okay, I won't read the data points off the screen, but just know that there is a demand for cybersecurity professionals. And by year 2020, that demand will grow, right, close to 1.5, and depending on which news outlet or article you're reading, That's between 1.5 million to 2 million cybersecurity professionals. And so there's a shortage, and so opportunities to present on forums like this, as well as other nonprofits, allows Semantic to talk about the need and the opportunity to take advantage of a great opportunity and get into a great field. The other is the lack of diversity in cybersecurity. So again, less than 2% African American, and then females, that's less than 11%. And so if there are any females on the webinar, I want you to make note of two organizations. One is called Girls Who Develop IT. This is a nonprofit organization that provides insight on females getting into the field. And there's another that's, you want to do a Google search, it's called Mother Coders. So they actually provide daycare services. But again, so there are two needs. There's a shortage, and even more so, there's a lack of diversity in this particular field. Many organizations are looking at how they can move the diversity needle up. So organizations such as the company I work for, Semantic, and other larger organizations as well in addressing this challenge. And so again, trained professionals, and I think the numbers speak for themselves, but ideally someone with hands-on technical experience. And so it's been debated, should I get a degree and then look at cybersecurity, or should I go out to my certifications and get into cybersecurity? So if you think about it, there are two different ways you can get in the field. Obviously, one is just going out the basic vendor-specific certifications. That's an example. Or going after getting a degree in that field, and along with looking at potential internships. And so I'll talk through some of the ways that you can look at, getting into your foot into cybersecurity. So first of all, let's look at the problem, right? So if you think about it, all of these little devices that you maintain, from an iThis to an iThat to Kindle, and all of these devices, they're really great at allowing you to communicate and download various applications, along with social media, allowing you to connect with friends and family, from YouTube to the Facebook to the Meetup. And then if you think about all the applications, right, just thousands and thousands of applications, these applications maintain your personal identifiable information, right? So again, keeping with the theme, it's all about information. If I can access your social media and I can send a link to a friend and family, and that person double-clicks that link, and they're redirected over to the bad guy's site, and now I can steal personal information, and not only that, but I can start to cascade my influence within your network itself. All right. So if you think about some of the threats, and I touched on them, and let me walk through the technical jargon, if you will, of all the threats, and then what I want to do is I want to break it down to you. So you commonly hear of threats such as viruses and malware and Trojans. Okay. So just think about this as unwanted programs and software that the bad guys will use to download and install on your machine, so now they can open up back doors so someone can communicate with that machine from a mothership, if you will, right? And in many cases, what they'll do is they'll use your machine as a bot, right? So I infected Renault's machine with some malware, and that software is dormant. It's just sitting there. But if I infect, say, 100,000 machines, and I send a command to all of those 100,000 of machines to all ask for a request from a particular website, it will overwhelm that website, and that website will not be able to produce the services that it was intended to. So those are bots, and botnets is just a collection of computers that have been compromised. And in fact, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of machines today that are working as bots. Pretty scary, right? And not only will they work in conjunction to spam different systems, which is what is referred to as a denial of service or distributed denial of service, the bad guy, which is referred to as the bot master that's sending these commands, can have those machines scan for personal identifiable information. So earlier, as I talked about the threats, that could be credit card information, that could be your Social Security information. In fact, your healthcare information is going for $50 to $100 per record. You know, if you think you need a knee surgery, guess what? You don't have insurance? Well, you can purchase someone else's identity because you can find this information on the underground economy. So those are botnets. But what the latest threat is what is referred to as an advanced persistent threat or a targeted threat. And these are phishing, or spear phishing attacks. And I think we've all experienced these. If you've received an email at 3 a.m. in the morning with a link from a friend asking for you to double-click on a link, in many cases, the bad guy, they've sent the link out to a number of individuals, hoping that that person will send that email to someone within their contact and have them double-click on that link so they can deliver the malcode. So, again, I want to paint a picture of what we're seeing out there in terms of the sophistication as well as some of the threats. Let's look at your information. So when I was putting this slide together, I chuckled because, hey, you want to go to Brazil? Well, maybe not now with the whole, fly thing going on. But again, stolen passports, $2. Can you believe that? $10 to $15 for a stolen gaming account, right? So if you're looking at getting to a certain level of proficiency, you don't have to work as hard. You can just purchase this information on the underground economy. Or if you're looking to have friends and increase your following on social media. So again, I wanted to paint the picture of the threats that are out there, and not only that, but the how much your information is going for on the underground economy. Okay, now let's get to the sweet spot here. How we protect information. I think it's critical to understand the types of tools and technologies that are used within an organization to prevent your information, again, from falling into the hands of the cyber thieves. All right, so with that scenario, I got two scenarios. And so think about it. Bad guy goes into a neighborhood, right? He goes into the neighborhood, he cases the neighborhood, and he sees two homes. There's a home with a Porsche and a house in front of it, right? Scenario B. And there's a scenario A, where there's a home with the fence, the pit bull, burglar alarm, and then the car. Which scenario is the bad guy going to, right? So it's the same as a network. And the goal for an organization is to make it difficult and expensive and costly, right? Because you can't completely reduce the risk of a bad guy getting into your house, but I tell you what, you can make it more difficult. So again, just wanted to paint the scenario, and if you look at this in the context of a network, right? So if I have a network that has all of these multiple layers in place, it's going to be pretty hard for the bad guy to get in, steal my system, and steal my information. Okay, so now what I want to do is, keeping with that theme, let's associate the different layers of protection. So bad guy jumps the fence, right? So the fence in the technology world, this is the border protection. This is what is referred to as a firewall or intrusion prevention system, which is typically the first line of defense. And let's just say the bad guy jumps the fence And then there's a pit bull. And it's funny because when I did this talk, I did it in Philly when the Michael Vick thing was going on, and I say kills the pit bull. But the pit bull, that's the second line of the defense, right? So that's for your email, and that's going to be for your web scanners, individuals that are going out to the internet, and then other types of tools that are referred to as network access controls. So what this is if your device isn't a corporate device, you can't access the network itself. And then the third line of defense, this is endpoint. So started off talking about semantic, how we started with antivirus, right? That was the first technology, right? And that's just a one-to-one matching. It's kind of, if you're sick, you go to the doctor will prescribe medication, but the problem is that on average, 1 million pieces of unique malware is created each day. So antivirus signatures can't keep up with that one-to-one matching. So other technologies are needed, such as host system detection tools. And then with that third line, if the bad guy gets into the house, guess what? The house should have a burglar alarm. So looking at the various layers, what that does is it may not prevent, but it will slow the attacker down and alarm the homeowner that there's something that's happening within their environment. And then the last line is the physical human, and this is user education and security awareness. I have a saying, and that saying is that you can patch a bug in a system, an operating system, but you cannot patch a person, right? So if I have all of those different layers in place, and I send an email to Renault with a link, and I double-click it, well, that was a social engineering attack, right? It took advantage of the weakness within the person itself. So organizations should have user education and awareness in place as well. Now, let's look at some of the jobs that align to those areas as it relates to cybersecurity. So I talked about the first line, the firewall, then the fence. So you would have security firewall engineers. An engineer may go out and do the build, design, implementation. And also you may have security network engineers as well. Security network, if you remember, that was for the email and that was for the web. They would go out and they would install these various solutions within the network, and they would ensure that the designs are in place. And both of those positions correlate with a security firewall administrator. So one's an engineer, and then you have an administrator. So think about the administrator as more of looking at the administrative attributes of the particular firewall, such as, did I allow this particular, what is referred to as a port, access into my system, or am I blocking that? Whereas the firewall engineer may be in charge of installing the various firewall. Security system engineer. So that third line of defense, we looked at the endpoint. This could be a security systems engineer that is in charge of ensuring that antivirus is installed on all of the various systems, as well as the other complementary capabilities. And then fast forward to advanced malware forensics. So in many cases, organizations, they need to figure out what happened. So a breach happens, right? And the question is, what did they take? Are they still in the network? And did we identify the individuals, the malware that was used? And so these would be more of a specialized team that will look at the forensics of particular malware. And then that last line of defense, the human factor, this would be the security awareness specialist, right? This will be a person that ensures that you've taken all of the required training for constructing a complex password or not double-clicking on a link. So those 4 areas that I covered, there are jobs that are associated with those areas. But what I want to emphasize is that that's only 4 of 40 to 50 other jobs that are related into cybersecurity. So there are a number of opportunities that individuals can take advantage of outside of those different areas. But again, it's all about ensuring the protection of information. And so, Neil, I want to pause real quick before completing the presentation. I gave a lot of backdrop on threats. I talked high level at some of the jobs. And before I proceed with what are the steps to get into cybersecurity, I wanted to see if there were any questions.
So there are no questions right now in the chat room, Renaud. I think people are still waiting to, I think the analogy and the information you gave were wonderful. In fact, even though I claim that I'm a technical person, I didn't know some of these, so that was wonderful insight in there. So let's proceed on the other slides, and I would like to see what are the jobs, jobs that are available there.
You bet, absolutely. Okay, well, great. So what we thought we would do is really pull it all together, right? So I talked about a lot of the threats, I talked about the great demand, but, what is a day in the life of a cyber professional, right? So 40%, if not more, is all about implementing those technologies, the firewall, the network, the endpoint. It's all about the build, design, and implementation and ensuring that those are in place. The other 30% is really doing your research, right? So for example, if you just installed a firewall, well, maybe some of that research is looking at what were the attacks that have been blocked and being able to produce a report to share with leadership and or your team. Not only that, but anytime there's new software that's created or tools to counter the hacker, guess what? They'll find a way to evade it, right? So now you're doing research and you're looking at other ways and techniques and tactics that the bad guys are using, so you can make recommendations on maybe tuning the solution that was put in place, either it be the firewall, or the network, or the endpoint. The other 10% is after you put the tooling in place and you're looking at the various reports to keep up on the activity, it's all about upgrading in the hardware and the software, right? Because there are revisions that may come out within the hardware or the software system. And then the other 10% is just staying current. The great thing about cybersecurity is you're always learning. So a lot of times it's maintaining your skill set of the technology that you may have responsibility for, or your skill set in cyber as a whole. And I tell you, I spend 2 hours every day studying, and in many cases, I'm staying up to speed with a lot of the basics, but also I'm staying up to speed with how the the adversary is changing their attack or their targeted strategies. And then the last 10% is helping other professionals. So this is working as a team. The example is there's a large project that requires perimeter protection. So perimeter protection, that would be the firewall. And also it requires a network component as well. So maybe you're working on a team with another individual to ensure that you've scoped out the types of technologies that are required. You've built a design guide, and then the step-by-step implementation. And then once it's been put in place, what's the thing to do daily, weekly, and monthly? These are referred to as your operational guide, and that will go back into the 30% itself. So that would be a day in the life of a cyber professional. But again, there are so many different careers and jobs within this field. Me personally, on the sales side, a lot of my time as a presenter is spent working on the material, and that 30% is actually about 60% for me, doing a lot of research in terms of what's happening out there in terms of the threat landscape. And my 40% comes from my personal data center. I have planned with technologies to stay current. So again, wanted to share a day in the life of a cyber professional. Okay. Okay, so where to start? Okay, all right. So starting in this field is great because it really takes passion. And if you're passionate about solving problems, you're a left-brainer, you can start with getting an industry certification. CompTIA is the governing body. And the first certification is called the A+ certification. And so this certification allows you to employ a lot of the critical thinking skills to understand hardware, right? And not only that, understanding the type of software that will be installed, if it's Windows or if it's Mac. Not only that, but systems management. Typically, you have to deploy system patches to plug and vulnerabilities within the system itself. So it's really the theory and methodology of how you install a system and software and the applications that are installed. So that will be phase one, is getting the A+ certification. And then step two, or stage two, if you will, is understanding the networking component. So networking, the way I like to explain it is, networking is basically how two computers talk to each other, right? It's just like within the neighborhood, right? My neighbor is a network, but my house by itself would just be a computer. And understanding what are the protocols before data is transmitted from one machine to another machine, right? So the certification that aligns with that is the CompTIA Networking Plus. So if you follow me, establish your baseline with the A+ certification. Then you'll want to obtain the Networking Plus, and the Networking Plus, again, will help you understand the protocols between two computers, how to troubleshoot computer-related issues, how computers actually are assigned an address. It's like when you're delivered mail, you have an IP address, and your mail would have an address, and there would be a PO number, and that same logic is similar as it relates to computers. And then finally, since you have the foundation, you understand how two computers communicate, and now it's time to understand how would I break in a computer within a network or within an isolated configuration, such as a computer that isn't connected to the network. So this would be the CompTIA Security Plus certification, and that certification would align with various areas, particularly with gateway and network and endpoint, and it pulls all of your knowledge together. Now, the other thing that I wanted to pull together for you all is a summary of the hours that would be associated in each area. So you're looking at a little over 100 hours to get your A+, about 50 hours or so to get your networking, and then close to 150 for your Network Security Plus certification. And the other neat thing is you can see the correlation with the certification in terms of salary. So $67K to $80K with these various certifications. And what I like is that there isn't an age requirement, right? So I've known individuals as young as 16, 17 years old that have obtained their CompTIA certification. And so here's a link, and we'll make these slides available to everyone, but here's a link of a school that you could look into that would offer these particular certifications, and they actually offer the certifications as a suite or you can do them individually. So with that, giving you a little bit of background about the need, we talked about the threats, we talked about how to get into the field, but what I want to do now is I want to take you through the Symantec SC3 program. And Symantec, as a global leader in cybersecurity, we have to be good corporate citizens. And so this is an initiative to help bridge the gap between the cyber warrior issues that we're having within the world. So with the SC3, what it does is essentially the top priority is making the world a safer place. And so this is minorities, underserved youth, as well as veterans. And so it's a combination between connecting them with the classroom material that they need, along with internships. And we actually kicked everything off in 2014. We had a lot of press regarding the SC3 program. I'm actually on the committee, so I'm super excited about the results so far. And so I'll walk you through the phases. So phase one of the program is really awareness, right? So I started the presentation off earlier mentioning, 2/3 of individuals don't have a clue about cybersecurity. So it's all about how do you make them aware of cybersecurity, the need of cybersecurity, and how to get into cybersecurity, such as what I've done in walking you through the program and process. And then phase two is all about recruiting, training, and certifying. Okay, so what we've done is we're working with nonprofits, and there are a few in your area, from Empower to other nonprofits, and helping them out with the training curriculum centered around the CompTIA certifications. So the goal would be for individuals that are looking at getting into the field to reach out to one of our partners, and our partners would take them through the process of entering the program. Phase three is many of our partners have relationships with corporate sponsors. Symantec, we're a corporate sponsor, so we'll hire SC3 candidates from the program. JP Morgan Chase, eBay, you name it. So many of these nonprofits already have relationships with these corporate partners that they're providing students for other opportunities such as supply chain and finance and healthcare. And so with cybersecurity being a demand, we decided to work with these nonprofits so now they can help create a pipeline of cybersecurity talent to fill some of those opportunities. And so phase four is all about launching a career. So I touched on a few of them. I touched on eBay, Symantec, but as you can see, Gap, SAP, you name it. So we have individuals that have gone through the program that are actually that have launched their careers with these companies. So again, just a recap. Let me go ahead and populate this through. We started out with roughly about 200, and we had about 77% of them have graduated and now working in cyber security. And this was our first year. Again, we kicked it off in 2014. And here are some of the faces of the SE3 program. Michael and Ashley, so both were interns. They're interns now. They went through the program, and I love Michael's note. He was a welder. He felt as though it was a dead-end job, but he had these critical thinking skills, and we got him connected with one of our nonprofits, and now he's in cybersecurity. So you can read the stories for yourself, but I will tell you that cybersecurity is it's an exciting job, and it's great to be in demand. And I tell you, every week I have between 3 to 4 different offers from other organizations because of the opportunities to make a difference in this field. So hopefully you enjoyed the webinar, and I was able to give you some information in terms of cybersecurity, what it is, what's the job task at hand, and then more importantly, how you as a middle school student, a high school student can think about pursuing a career in cybersecurity, either taking the IT certification route, or if you're looking at majoring in computer science as well, but understanding there's a need, and we're definitely looking for cybersecurity warriors. So with that, that's my presentation. I'm sorry I couldn't take your entire 90 minutes, but I'll be here for any comments and or questions.
Thank you, Ronald. This was really wonderful. I know there are no questions because I myself are bummed at some of the things, in the sense that it looks pretty easy that, well, all you have to do is just go and get those certifications, and those two don't look like 100 hours is like maybe you can do it in a month.
Yep.
So why is that people are not, why is there still that lack of, those job skills in there?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge is awareness. That's the biggest challenge I find. It's awareness of what is cybersecurity and how to get into the field. And in many cases, what are the fun jobs that are associated with it? So I have just found, just in giving these particular talks, many individuals are taking interest, at least at looking at how they may be able to align their passion in the field of cybersecurity. And the other thing is, many individuals always consider cybersecurity as a programmer, right? This guy that, the only time he comes outside is when the internet goes down, right? And so you're programming. But as you can see, cybersecurity expands that, and even to sales and what I do as a public speaker and talking about cybersecurity. So it's just awareness. It's getting the information out. And you're right, the certifications are not that difficult. They aren't. And I think any individual on this call you'll find that as you go through the certification course, it's challenging, but it's not as difficult as one may seem.
Yeah, especially when you could get a job right out of college. So it seems pretty, makes so much sense to me, and pretty attractive that, while I know there are a lot of college students, they're still struggling to get a job. And I'm like, if you're doing computer science, if you're interested in that field and do the certification, this could, there's so much demand out there, it could be easy to get a job.
Let me tell a quick story real quick, and I'll make it quick. So my son was living in the Beaverton area with his mom. He moved in with me when he turned 18, and my son actually, I mentored him. I had him actually go through those 3 certifications courses, and he actually went through that school. When he completed the certification course, we worked on his resume, so made sure his resume was up to date, along with soft skills, interviewing skills, and he got a call from a Google recruiter. This is a true story. So we prepared for the interview. He ended up getting that internship with Google, right? And this is before going to college. He does the 6-month process. He goes through there. He left there. He went to Home Depot for a year, and now he's working as a security analyst for a Fortune 1000 company here in Atlanta, doing extremely well. So you've seen the salaries, right? So he's 22 years old. I don't even talk to him anymore because he's doing so well. He doesn't even call Dad. But he's going to college as well. So he got in, working with a great company, and through tuition reimbursement, he's going to college. So he'll have his degree by 30, along with already having his certifications, and he's traveling the world, with the company that he works for. So again, a great way to get in the field via certification. Use the company to pay for you to go to school instead of getting out of school and having this massive amount of student loans.
Exactly. That's wonderful. So does Symantec offer internships to high school students if they have these certifications?
Yeah, we do, and we offer them. It would be through the SE3 program, so it would be through our nonprofits, and then we also offer them to college higher ed as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's wonderful. A lot of insights in here. So thank you so much for your wonderful presentation, Renaud. And to our participants, thank you so much again for joining us. Renaud's information is on the registration page that he registered. So if you want to get in touch with him, to email his website, all the information is out there. Or you can even reach out to us at Oroola, info@oroola.com, and then we can facilitate that conversation in case you have any questions. So thank you once again, and have a wonderful week. Enjoy the Oscars. Renaud, thanks so much for your presentation today.
You bet. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Okay.
All right, bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.